Now, to read her winning essay. I am very pleased to present to you, representing Somerset VFW Post 554 and Auxiliary, Department of Pennsylvania, our first place Voice of Democracy winner, Christine Troll.
I would like to take a quick moment to express how deeply humbled and grateful that I am to have the opportunity to be up here looking into hundreds of faces of patriots, my American heroes. I would like to quickly thank my parents who brought me up with a patriotic and grateful heart, and God, to whom all the glory is given, and every veteran in this room and in America. It started out as a mundane Monday morning, with the shriek of my alarm clock waking me up and dragging me off to school and work. I went through the motions lackadaisically until later that day, I looked up during my food service job to see a man missing his right arm from the elbow down. Just as he walked out the door, a lump lodged in my throat and my stomach crawled into my chest as I caught the proud golden words on his black cap, United States Marine Corps veteran. I spent the rest of that day with the veteran on my mind. He, along with every veteran, including my grandfather and uncle, sacrificed everything they had and everything they were to protect the basic human rights of every American, such as the right to religious freedom, the right to free speech, and the right to vote. However, I'm an American teenager. I'm worried about turning old enough to drive, not vote. Midterms and Inauguration Day will take place with or without my one teeny, unmeaningful vote. Yet, a few days later, I found myself lost in the chapters of my AP history book on our founding fathers. Suddenly, I was in Philadelphia on September 17th, 1778, at the Constitutional Convention. I found myself surrounded by the giants of history who, from a fragile moment in our nation's birth, orchestrated in the second article of our Constitution a voting system of checks and balances, guaranteeing every American citizen, not just the politically elite, the right to help decide who represents us, what issues they address, and how they spend our money. Every American citizen deserves the efficacious right and fundamental responsibility to make his or her voice and opinion heard, and that's exactly what voting grants us. To quote President Lyndon Johnson's maxim, "This right to vote is the basic right, without which all others are meaningless. My vote matters because my rights matter." Fast forwarding 133 years and 200 pages, I found myself in Washington, D.C. in 1920 on August 18th. After a civil war, several constitutional amendments, and risky suffragette activism, people of every race and gender gathered to celebrate the quintessential right to vote that all citizens have finally been granted. Voting identifies us as full American citizens whose opinions can influence the nation's future. Many voters feel a sense of powerlessness, since the chance that their one vote will solely determine the fate of the president is very slim. Nonetheless, when has America ever been about the individual? We are a nation as a whole, united, indivisible house under God, and each vote makes up a brick of that house. Whether black, white, man, or woman, our voices matter. My vote matters because I matter. After 13 years and 7 more chapters, I landed in the company of hundreds of German citizens in the streets of Berlin on January 30th, 1933. Some were cheering exuberantly, declaring, "Hail Hitler," while others seemed frozen in fear, their expressions blank and chalky. I swallowed with difficulty, knowing the millions of lives about to be lost to the horrors of war. Hitler stands as an optimal example of why pure democracies, as well as total dictatorships, lead to utter collapse. Pure democracies allow for a candidate who is willing to exploit the fears and anger of the people to gain power, just as Hitler did. Nevertheless, when Hitler took complete control without the consent of the people, disaster struck. A nation where the citizens are not allowed a fair say in their leadership always results in disintegration. With this conundrum in mind, our founding fathers created a democratic republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. My vote matters because the consequences matter. 85 years later, back in 2018, I wake up again to the shriek of my alarm. I have not seen that veteran with the black cap again, but I have encountered others, every one of whom I thank for their service and sacrifice. Each of them, as well as many of my own friends who have recently enlisted in the military, have given Americans the meaningful, extraordinary privilege to influence the future by voting for what they feel will create a more perfect union. My vote matters because their sacrifice matters. Next year, thanks to those who have fought and fallen for my freedom, my vote will be counted in the polls. And it won't just count, it will matter. Thank you.